Good morning, everyone, or afternoon if you are on the East Coast. My name is Nicole Mead. I'm with the Simple View marketing team, and you can see we have Josiah and Caitlin on the cameras here, and they are presenters today. We are recording, so you will be getting a copy of the recording and the presentation deck. It will be sent to you via email, available on our homepage as well as the portal. If you have any questions or concerns during the presentation, go ahead and use your chat box. I will be monitoring throughout for technical issues, and then we will be saving questions for the end where Josiah and Caitlin will go ahead and do like a Q&A. With that said, I will pass it over to them and we will get started.
Thank you.
All right. Hi, everyone. I miss seeing your faces. It's been a while. I can't wait for the day in which I get to travel again. It's been 7.5 years since I've been home for this long, so I'm feeling a little crazy. So, with that being said, it gave me enough time to calculate that it has been 90 days since I've tried on a pair of jeans. So I feel both accomplished by that, but also worried for when that day is going to come. So I'll leave you with that little fact. And I think I've been in my house a little bit too long. I'm sure everyone else is feeling the same way. So, everyone who hasn't met me before, I'm Caitlin, CRM training manager at SimpleView. I'm joined with my colleague Josiah.
Yep, I'm Josiah Craig. I'm a CRM training manager as well. Happy to be here.
No fun fact for us about.
I'm
No,
wearing
nothing.
shorts right now. You can't tell.
Look, I did say jeans. That was not pants. I definitely have been wearing those, but jeans are not my favorite thing. So I need to be prepared to go running or anything like that. So, but today, let's get to the webinar. Let's get to the agenda. We're going to start off with creating or editing dues, and if you're invoicing out of the system, creating those, how to modify those, specifically for the times we're in with adding credits or adding discounts or payments, kind of write-offs for some of those invoices. And then we're going to go into possibly using your dues reevaluation tool if that's something you need to do. So the first half of the webinar is going to be focused towards destinations that are membership based or charge for their partnership. Then the second half of the webinar, I'm going to follow that up with just some reminders about some of the things that you can change when you're managing staff, users inside of CRM, and then partner turnover, so using contact tags, contact types. And then lastly, showing some really, I think, best in class examples of how some of you out there are communicating with your partners. So I'm going to hand it over to Josiah, who's going to walk us through all the CRM specifics.
Yeah, so as Caitlin was saying, our first half here, we're really focusing on the dues and membership side of things and the invoicing tool. We're going to cover some of the basics of invoicing anyway, so if you guys do invoicing at all, even if you're not dues-based, there are still some tips and tricks that will be useful to you guys. But basically over time, over the last few weeks, last few months, as we've been doing trainings, as we talk with the CRM analysts as well, there's been a lot of questions sometimes about, during this COVID shutdown, some destinations are curious, how can we do some refunds? How can we do some credits for our dues since everything has been shut down? So that's sort of the aspect we're trying to cover here, is show you some of the basic technical side of how we can do those refunds, those credits, and write-offs in the system, just to get you familiar with those basic tools. So before we show you how to do that process, there's some things to consider. So as with anything that has to do with money, when it comes to your destination, you always want to have your accounting team involved. Talk with your accountant, your accounting team. They have a lot of concerns as far as audits and other things that they have to keep in mind. So we want to make sure whatever process we follow for keeping track of refunds or write-offs, that we're talking with them and figuring out how we actually want to do that. We're going to show you a few different processes today. We're not telling you like, here's the best practice. We're just showing you how the tools work. And it's really up to you guys to determine what your process should be. And as again, talking with your accountant. We also want to include, if you guys those with larger teams who are maybe multiple people involved with invoices, you want to include your team and make sure everyone's on the same page here. We don't want to have one people doing a certain write-off method and other people doing a different credit method, because then our invoices and our numbers are going to look different. So want to keep that in mind. So we are doing just a basic intro to this. As far as the tools in the CRM, I want to point out, if you are using one of our accounting integration softwares, such as our QuickBooks integration, you're doing all your changes in in that software itself. So if you're using like a QuickBook integration, a lot of the stuff we were talking about doesn't necessarily apply to you. Still useful maybe to have an understanding of how invoicing works, but just keep that in mind with those integration software pieces. Additionally, if you're using a payment integration such as Authorize.net or PayPal, it's also important that you consult with your accounting team beforehand, and even reach out to your CRM analyst about how we want to handle those refunds on those processes, because those online payment systems have an additional layer that we need to pay attention to. So again, we're just covering the basics of how you can keep track of manual transactions such as cash or check, et cetera, those types of transactions that we're doing in the system. But the goal is to lay that basic groundwork understanding, and then if you do have some of those integrations, you can always talk with your CRM analyst to get that more advanced level of, okay, how do these integrations work in light of this, if we want to do refunds, et cetera. So keep that in mind. Definitely talk with your accounting team and your CRM analyst if you have some questions about any of this stuff. We're also here to answer some general questions as well, but specific to your system, they'll have a better insight into what your pathway can be. So some of the we're looking at today are these here. We'll be looking at how to do a refund, how to track a refund, either a whole or partial refund on your dues and fees invoices. So basically how we're going to add that as a payment. One other option we'll have is how are we going to do a write-off? So after we've refunded their money, how are we going to write off that money that we've refunded? That's one path. Or we have the option to add a credit to an invoice on their invoice items. So write-off pathway or a credit pathway, two different options there, multiple options beyond even what we may cover today. But just know we're showing you those, and then you'll be able to decide what's best for your team. So to get started, for those of you who may not be familiar with what dues and invoices are, this is a screenshot here from an account record in our member partner user group, where we're showing the dues for our local business for a year. So in this case, this business has dues of $900 with some additional benefits totaling $100, and we're seeing this sort of summary there. We're going to go in more detail on this, do a live demo here in a second, showing you how to build all this stuff, but this is really what we're talking about, is this dues and information setup. So the first thing we're going to be looking at is how to do a refund. Just to give you a quick preview, a refund is going to show up on your payment tab so in this case, we have a payment of $1,000 and then we refunded $500. We'll notice it looks a little bit different. That's sort of that first pathway we're going to look at. And on that, after we've added a refund, we're going to be looking at how to do a write-off. So in this case, we've added a write-off after our refund to sort of balance out this invoice so that it is equal to zero. It's all paid and everything's good there. So in light of that, we're going to go ahead and look at that in a live demo. Just to set that up, we're going to talk about the basics, how to set up dues, and go over that process and review how that works. So hopefully you guys can see this. So I made a example account here in our education environment, Simple City. This is a green hotel. We're looking at an account record in a member partner. And if we scroll down, we can see our dues and invoicing tab. And right now I have not set up any dues or invoices on this. So we're going to just quickly go through that as some options. So in order to add dues for this business first, hopefully somebody on your team, unless you're brand new, somebody's already set up your dues and benefits in admin. If they haven't, you guys can always set those up according to your tier levels and what you're offering. But once those are set up in admin, we can come over here and hit add dues. And we're going to be able to set up some things such as how are we billing this, annual, quarterly, monthly. What is our billing month? In this case, I'm going to say this is billing month of June. These people joined May 15th. And we see our options here on the right for dues, amounts, benefits. These are all zero currently right now, but if I select a dues type, such as our gold package membership, you can see it automatically pulls in that dues amount. So these dues types are what are set up in admin. So we can set that up, add any notes, relevant notes to what this package is for them, and hit update. And now they have dues on their account. In this case, just to demonstrate this function, I'm going to add some additional benefits. So they have their gold package membership, but they want some additional things. In this case, and again, these are all going to differ depending on your destination. You guys may have these, you may have different ones. These are just examples. Don't view them as something you have to have. But in this case, this business wants some additional listings. We can see I selected that benefit type here. Again, those are all set up in admin, and it defaulted to that unit price of 50. I'm going to say they said they wanted 2 additional listings, so I hit save. That gives it that extended price of $100, 2 times 50. And I now see my dues total is $1,000. Nice round even number for you guys. So that's really that first step. We're setting up our dues and benefits for that business. And the next thing we're doing is in that, when that billing month comes up, when it's time to bill them, we're then coming over here and generating an invoice. So I'll show you how to do this on the account level here in a second, but I do want to point out in general, what you guys will be doing is coming over to our invoices module and going over to generate invoices. And this is how you're going to be able to generate, for instance, all of the invoices due for the billing month of June. It'll save you a lot of time. Instead of having to go to each account and generate that invoice, you can use this generate invoices tool and just generate them all at once. So that's typically what you guys will be doing. We have knowledge base resources that go in more in depth on how to do this. But for the sake of this webinar, I'm just going to show you the manual process. So if we go back to our green hotel, dues and invoicing, and go over to invoicing or invoices, we'll see our 3 buttons up here. Add a blank invoice, that's for a non-dues invoice. And then we have our add dues and benefit invoice. That's what I'm going to click. And it's going to basically confirm some of those details for this business. So when is the invoice date? When is it due? This is for the period starting 2020 through 2021. For this business, I can add any descriptions down here, confirm their package, membership, their additional benefits here, still all totaling to $1,000. And I'm going to hit save. Now that invoice has been generated. So at this point, we then email this or notify them. If you guys have online payments via the extranet, they can oftentimes pay these invoices online as well. So we'll show you though the manual process. So I'm going to click on this invoice ID here, where I see a summary of this invoice. I can see the total invoice amount here. They have paid $0 so far. I see the items here and our payments tab. So I'm going to say they came into the office, wrote me a check. Wrote me a check to cover all of this invoice. And I'm now going to add that as a payment to show that they're good. So what we do is on our payments tab, we can add a new payment. And we have our different payment types and payment methods that you guys can set up in admin. You'll have some defaults, but as we'll talk about here in a second, we have some different options that we built in. But I'm going to say this is a new payment, and the payment method was a check. We have our cash, credit card, whatever other ways we want to track that here. And do note that if they do that online payment, it's going to automatically create this payment for you. You don't have to do it. But we'll say they paid on the 20th. And they paid the full amount of $1,000. And I'm just going to add the check number here, so I have a reference of what check they gave me. So I'm going to hit save. We then see this payment now shows up, a new cash payment of $1,000. We see here at the top our invoice amount was $1,000 and our paid amount is $1,000. What's nice is if I go back to this account level, I'll see their invoice balance is $0. They don't owe any money right now. So let's go back to that invoice. So that's the typical scenario that we're seeing, where invoices are sent out, people are paying them, all done, we're good. Now, what we're seeing recently, and some clients have asked about, is in light of COVID and potentially other times when refunds are needed, a destination might want to refund a little bit of this invoice in light of the fact that we've been shut down for 3 or 4 months. So in this case, we're going to say that the destination wants to refund $300 on this annual dues to this partner, to this member, in light of COVID. So what we're going to do is we're going to be able to go over to our payments tab, and on this thing where they've already paid $1,000, I'm going to refund $300. Now note, this is just a manual reference. Again, you have to physically do that refund yourself elsewhere. And like I said, if you have a payment integration, you want to talk with your CRM analyst about how we do those payment integration refunds. This is just for the old-fashioned cash or check way how we can keep track of it. So in this case, we're going to add a new payment. That's how we're going to add a refund. And we'll enter that information here. Now, before all this webinar, I went ahead and set up a few different payment types. So one of the payment types I wanted to keep track of was just refunds in general. So I actually went into admin under drop downs, payment types, and added refund so that I can keep track of my refunds. And then our payment methods, I didn't really need to change anything there because I'm going to write them a check back. So I'm going to say I wrote this check back on the 21st for an amount of $300 of a refund. Now, what's important is this is a refund. It's not just $300. I actually need to come in here and put negative. It's important to put that negative there if you're refunding money back. Otherwise, it's going to look like you paid an additional $300. So negative $300 is what I'm doing. And this is with a different check that I wrote, or we wrote for our destination. And I'm going to hit save. So now this refund shows up in parentheses. You can see the paid amount has been reduced from 1,000 down to 700. Great, they got their money back. We've refunded them, all good. Well, we actually need to balance out this invoice. And this is where we get into those two pathways that I'm going to show you as options for how we can do this. So the first one I'm going to show you is a write-off method. And again, no right or wrong way. You need to figure out which one's best for your destination. But here's an option for you. So on this invoice, I'm going to write off that $300. We refunded $300. Now I'm going to write off that $300. So what I basically need to do is add another payment where we do the write-off. So add a new payment. I did create a payment type down here for DMO, where I'm just keeping track of DMO specific transactions. You guys don't have to do that, but it might be useful. You can also do other or new or something like that if that's part of your workflow. So I'm going to select DMO as my payment type. And then for payment method, it's not a check or anything, it's a write-off. So you can go, most of you guys will have the default of write-off in your system already. If you want to track specifically write-offs for COVID, you can add a payment method of COVID write-off or something else if you want to track it specifically. Completely fine just to stay with your regular write-off though. For this, I'm going to use our COVID write-off. I'm going to say we did this on the 22nd, and we're basically doing a write-off payment of $300. So I'm writing off $300. And I'm going to hit save. So now we see that original payment, that $300 refund, and then that $300 write-off for that refund. If we come up here and look at the top, we see my paid amount now does equal my invoice amount. All things are good as far as this invoice is concerned. So this is that first pathway, pretty simple, easy. We're just adding payments. Remember the negative payment for that refund, positive payment for that write-off, and then we have our data there. This invoice is good. We've refunded them $300 elsewhere by writing that check, and hopefully things are good at that point. So that's one pathway. Let's go back to our slides to look at the alternative pathway. So on the invoice, instead of doing a write-off, what we can do is we can add a credit to our invoice items. So this is what that sort of looks like. We'll be able to add a credit, basically reducing the invoice cost itself. And one of the perks of doing this pathway is that the benefits that we add on our item credits, our invoice items, are going to be able to show up on the printed invoice with a description here. So in this case, I had a COVID credit for $500 on this one, and I can see that actually on the invoice as opposed to just a payment line. So some options to consider there. So let's take a look at what that looks like. So I'm going to come over here to our competitor, the Blue Hotel, the Green Hotel's competitor, and we'll go down to their dues and invoicing. They've already been set up with dues in a similar capacity, $1,000, $900 with a $100 additional benefit. They've already had an invoice generated. I'm actually just going to delete this, or no, I'm going to leave the refund. So they've already paid $1,000 on the original invoice, and I've already refunded the $300. So already back up to the point where we get to decide which option we want to go with. So they've been refunded $300, but instead of doing the write-off, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to the items, and I'm going to add a COVID credit for them instead. So we can see here, invoice is 1,000, paid amount is 700. But if we add an invoice item, we can balance that out. So I went ahead and created a member benefit called COVID credit, just to ease things up a little, where I'm not having to type as much as pulling in a description automatically, writing out that -100 price, and that can save you some time. You can always definitely just go with an other though and write things out from scratch if your credits aren't going to be necessarily mathematically simple. You know, if they're going to be different for each one, it might be easier to just start from scratch. So you can type this in, type in that thing right there. I'm going to do 3 COVID credits for this one because each credit is worth 100 in my system. So this is going to be a -$300 COVID credit. Looks good to me for that extended price is -$300. So I'm going to hit save. And now we see that new item show up for that COVID credit, -$300. And what you'll notice is our invoice amount went down from 1,000 to 700. So one method, the write-off, is going to increase our payment. And this item, invoice item credit, is going to reduce our invoice amount. So 2 options there. Nothing necessarily right or wrong with either one. Depends on what your process is. But what's nice is if I then go and print this, like I was showing you, we see our payments up here. So that original payment and that refund of $300, our listing of $100, our dues of $900, and then we see that COVID credit of $300 for a balance due of $0. So different pathways there to consider. Like I said, though, this is just a basic intro, some options for you. More advanced level stuff, talk with your CRM analyst and they can build off of this for you. So any questions on that specifically before we move on to other things? All right, so just to sort of follow up on that, talking about some of the drop downs that I created, these things in parentheses at the top, that's what you'll want to look for under admin drop downs in member partner if you want to modify these. So if you want to modify your payment types, look for invoice payment types. If you want to modify your payment methods, look for payment methods. And then if you want to add something like that COVID credit as a member benefit that you can add to an invoice, you'll want to add that under member benefits. So again, these are just examples of something I built. Use what's useful to you. If this is useful, great. If not, you can use other things as well, depending on your situation. So next, we're going to be talking about dues reevaluation. So one of the other questions that Destinations brought up is not only how to do those refunds and credits, but they were saying, you know, for 2021, we want to potentially reduce dues by 10% for everyone across the board, or we want to reduce dues in this case for this business. How can we do that? Well, there's a manual way to do it, but we're going to show you there's the dues reevaluation tool that basically allows you to do this a little bit easier. Now, typically the dues reevaluation tool is used for increases on dues, not decreases, but the tool does allow you to do that in this case if you are reducing dues for the future. But just keep in mind you can use it to increase dues as well. So there's basically 2 things to consider when you're changing your dues for the next year. Basically, we want to update our default core dues in admin, our member dues type. That's going to be reflective for new accounts. But then we also want to be able to use the dues reevaluation tool for accounts that already have dues. So we're going to look at those 2 pathways, how we can do that. Pretty simple, but we'll show you how they do that. So the first one, that new dues, updating your default dues, where we're going to do that in admin, drop downs, member dues types. Sorry. That's where we're going to change the default price for our dues. Now, it's important to know this will only be effective for new accounts and for accounts that have not yet had their dues type generated, or if you change their dues. So existing accounts with existing dues won't be affected when you change things in admin. That's what we'll do the second tool for. So we'll do this under admin. It is important with all dues changes to keep in mind that you want to finish generating all of your invoices for the current year, the current fiscal year, you know, for 2020, before you change the 2021 dues. Because if you change the 2021 dues and you try to generate a 2020 invoice, it's going to have those 2021 dues levels. So make sure you're done with all of your current 2020 dues at the current dues rate before you change dues for next year, for that next fiscal year. So we're going to look at a live demo now of how to do that. So pretty simple. We'll go to admin in member partner. And again, this is for you who have admin access. Some of you guys won't have admin access, but for those of you who do, we'll be able to go under drop downs and go to member dues types. And this is where we'll see those existing ones. Again, you want to talk with your team and make sure you guys are all on the same pages here. We don't want to just have one person randomly changing this stuff. We want to make sure people are all on the same page. But here we can see our existing dues types. We could always add new ones if you guys, just in the course need new dues types. But we can always edit the existing ones. So for this package here, if I want to, I can come in here and change it to say $800, so that the next invoice or the next account that has this will have an $800 dues instead of $900. Hit save. Now that default dues has been updated. Simple, easy enough to do, brand new account, and they'll have that. So easy to do there. For current members who already have dues, we'll want to use the dues reevaluation tool. So one thing that's important to know is that reevaluating dues does not affect currently generated invoices. So if you've already generated invoices for them, and you're like, oh, I want to modify the dues on that current invoice, this tool doesn't do that. This is only for future invoices that are going to be generated. And again, this only affects accounts that already have existing dues set up on their account. What's nice is we can do that negative change if we're reducing dues for 2021. But again, we want to wait until we were done with all of our 2020 dues invoices before we change things for 2021. So keep that in mind. So let's take a look at how that works. So just to show you the manual hard way, you can do this, of course, one at a time. If we go back to our business, a Blue Hotel, dues and invoicing, I can always come down here and edit dues and just change that amount here to 800 or whatever that new amount is, hit update, and that's changed. So you can do this all one at a time for each business, but that potentially takes some time. So what we have is our dues revaluation tool under invoices. So under the invoices module, dues revaluation tool. If we click on that, this is where we can do this in mass. So the first thing we're deciding is for the group of businesses that we want to update, what type of change are we doing? We have the option to do a flat rate, reduce it by 100 or a percentage. I can reduce it by 10%, or I can reduce it by $100, whatever the amount is, or I can increase it. Typically, you guys are increasing dues. So here I'm going to select a flat rate. I'm going to reduce all our gold package memberships by $100. So the next thing we do is we have our member search, where we can go by name, by saved search, by tag. But most of the time, it might be easiest just to go by dues type here. So if I select by dues type, I can say, show me everyone who's a gold package membership. And this will pull all of them and only businesses that have that. And I can hit add all if I want to add them all and update them all at once. For the sake of this, I'm just going to add 3 businesses to keep it a little bit simple. These 3 hotels all have dues of $900, and I have set it up here for my flat rate. It's going to reduce them by $100. So we'll get to confirm that on the next screen. And we can see here for these 3 businesses, their current dues are $900, their new dues will be $800. If that's what I want, I can hit update, and then those changes will have taken place. So now if I go back to a Blue Hotel, go down to their dues and invoicing tab, I can see their dues has been changed to $800. So now when I go to generate next year's dues and benefits invoice, it's going to pull that $800 instead of the $900. So simple and easy way there to do it. Like I said, you're typically going positive, but you do have the ability to go negative on that reevaluation tool as well. And hopefully that will save you some time over having to do all that. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Caitlin to talk about staff and partner turnover, unless anyone has specific questions about those things. So do I need to stop sharing, Caitlin, or do you?
Nope, I'm grabbing it.
Okay.
Okay, you should see.
Yep, I can see it.
All right, perfect. Okay. Hi, everyone, again. So we're going to change gears a little bit and just talk about some part of the climate we're in, and managing some of your membership or partnership communications, could be that you have a new employee that is managing some of the partner communications. So we just wanted to touch on the fact that you may need to make a user in CRM. That would be an internal user, someone on your staff inactive. Or you might need to review their security roles to make sure that they have access to the member partner or the partners group. Or you might need to, if they're not a system admin, you might need to set them up with that security, with that group access, and then a certain security role within that group so that they can see and do things as it relates to partnership. Specifically, I think a lot of people might have forgotten about the extranet portal. We're going to be relying on our partners to log into the extranet a little bit more, hopefully, than we would normally see, because we are lower with our staff numbers. We need them to log in and submit changes now more than ever. So we're just going to switch over to CRM just to see a few of those. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this just because I did do a webinar on system admin and all of those tools just a few weeks ago. So I'm going to point you over to the system admin webinar to look at specifics if this is brand new to you. So just a reminder, when you're under admin users, you're going to see a list of your current active users. The biggest thing is just to remember this inactive filter. So you might need to edit a user, you might need to switch them over to being inactive because they're not currently in CRM right now. You may need that user record for someone else. So you would just go ahead and switch inactive to no. You would save that. But hopefully soon we're going to have a lot of people coming back, right? We're going to have a lot of people that need to be reactivated in CRM. So just a point to remember is that you're actually going to switch the filter over to inactive. Grab the user just by clicking edit, and you're going to reactivate them. Because if you try to add a new user and you plug in their email address, if they have ever been a user in the CRM before, it's actually going to display a message that you can't add a user that's been added previously. So one thing just to keep in mind is when you are reactivating some of your staff contacts in CRM, switch over to inactive, edit, and recheck them there. Because if you do try to add a new user and plug in their email address again, it's going to prompt you with an error that can't be done. So you'll just need to reactivate those people. And then, of course, if you need to change security access or change the group access that they have, you would just click on the user's name. And then you're going to do a manage groups here on this button. Or if you need to change security roles, you're going to do that under the security roles tab. So look to that admin webinar done a few weeks ago for all the specifics with that. Not going to rehash that today, but good things to remember. Along with that extranet help button, right? Especially if you have a new staff member that's dealing with partnership inquiries through the extranet, you want to make sure that they can get to the right person. So you will want to go under the extranet email section in member partner under admin. And you do want to make sure that the extranet help is populated with the right person that's currently actively accepting these inquiries from the extranet. So make sure that this is a current person that can get those emails when your partners need help, because I know sometimes we forget that we need to update this. All right, going back into my deck here, there are a few changes that we might need to make as far as tracking partner business contacts, right? I'm sure restaurants, attractions, hotels, we've got a lot of staff moving around right now. So you can do two things with that. The first thing is going to be, if we go over into live, we're going to talk about the contact types and the contact tags. So if we switch over and we go to any account in our member partner group, and we look at a contact here, you have two options. You can edit a contact, and you can switch their contact type to be inactive, or you can add an additional contact type, maybe to be COVID furloughed. And the benefits of doing that would be, if you were to switch over that contact type, that's going to take away their extranet access. If you are using the extranet portal, you do want to make sure you're going the contact type route, so that their access does get taken away if they are no longer working there right now. So that may apply to you, and that may be the route you want to take. So you can either just make them inactive, or you can add in a COVID furloughed contact type by going under admin and doing that as well. But at minimum, for sure, we want to at least track this with a contact tag. So a COVID furlough contact tag, so that you can add that to each contact, so that you can run lists and you can easily move those back if needed. I think just switching over a contact to inactive without adding a tag is going to be very difficult when you need to reactivate partner contacts. So just remember, tag at minimum. But if you need to take away extranet access, it might be helpful to switch over this contact type, or even add another contact type to track that. All right, so another option when we're talking about all these invoices and these changes is to create a search, right? I always think searches are helpful. So what I did is just an example of a search where there are invoices that have a balance due greater than $0. So you can see how many you have. So that you can make some of the changes Josiah talked about, right? So let's say that I was looking at the invoices I had created so far this year, and I'm having trouble collecting payment for some of them, and I need to make a decision on if I'm going to decrease dues or offer some sort of credits or refunds to certain people. So it might be helpful just to get a search first to see how many invoices I have in my system where I still have a balance due, and then I can make a decision on what to do from there. So I actually can switch back over to live and show you the search that I've already created. So it's going to be called balance due invoices, but you can easily create this on your own. And I'm going to hit modify and show you the filters I used. So I wanted a list of invoices where the invoice date was sometime this year. I did set this at runtime though, so that I can switch this at the end in my results to see if I want to see invoices if it was from the month of March or from the month of April or May. I want to be able to separate those out in a list. I did set that at runtime. Then I also wanted invoices that had the date this year, but also have a balance due of greater than $0. They still owe some sort of money. So those are the two filters I used. Then in my display columns, I just wanted to see information about the partners, right? So I wanted to see the name, the recipient company, who got the invoice. I wanted to see when the invoice was created, that invoice date. I wanted to see the ID of the invoice, the amount, and what is still due. So the invoice was created for this amount, but I want a column to see the balance that's still due, the due date, the description. Of course, you can add in additional columns here as well. But that's how I got this search here. Where then I can make a decision from here, what should I do next, right? If the number's low, maybe I might want to just edit. If I click into view detail, it'll take me to that invoice, and I might just want to edit a few of these. But if you're like me and you've got a large number here, 184 invoices that still have a balance due, and you want to make a large change, this brings us into kind of the next option. You can always create a ticket, right? You don't have to do everything on your own. If you are dealing with a large amount of invoices that you want to make a credit to or a refund, submit a ticket to your analyst so that as long as you put in some logic, you know, all invoices within this date range that have this, can you switch these over? to add a credit or some sort of payment, or maybe you just want to change the due date and give people a little bit more time. Any mass changes you can submit a ticket for through the portal to your analyst. So I did want to put that in. You don't have to do all this on your own one by one. You can definitely have it done in mass via support ticket. All right, so that kind of takes us through all of the CRM items. So invoicing, dues, payments, credits, maybe some contact management, creating a search to show you a list of invoices. But now I kind of want to round out this presentation with, I think, some best-in-class examples, some of you that I've just been really impressed with as far as your continued communication with partners. And some of that may be with emails to partners, but it also is partner sections on a website, a microsite. I did want to put this in there for you all to see some really great examples of what other people are doing to communicate with their partners. So this first one, I've been super impressed by Visit South Walton in their continuous emails that they're sending out to their partners, keeping them updated as things change. I really liked this partner email example because they were sharing some of their website stat information, something that the partners aren't able to get themselves. So I thought that this was a great example of providing value, updating partners. So I just wanted to show a screenshot of this, that they're sharing some of those COVID travel update page stats with their partners. So I thought that that was really cool and useful. And they're also showing some other website stats, not just their COVID section to their site, but some other stats there for their web for the month of March in this case, so that they can see how those are changing. I just thought that was really great. Good example. My friends in Athens, Georgia, I miss you. They also have a great section, partner section on their website. I pulled a couple screenshots that I thought were really great. The biggest thing, it seems really simple, but I really like that they had a last updated date on their website so that you can easily see, is this the most recent up-to-date information? I like that they put that on there so that they can see that. They've also have the use of some Facebook groups that people can link to. I like that as well. I thought that that was really helpful. And then as you continue scrolling down the partner section of their website, this is my favorite use of a blog widget that I've seen so far, supporting you on our blog. I think that's great. Just saying, hey, we're still writing blog content. This is what we're writing and how we're supporting you. And using a blog widget for that, I thought was awesome. I really liked this. And then still scrolling down on that page, they had their own use of a hashtag and were calling that out. So I just think it was a great example of a partner section to a site, showing different items to them in these times. Another one that I thought was really great was the Visit Milwaukee's microsite for coronavirus. I thought it was really clean, a good use of white space with their call out buttons being in orange, very easy to see. They also have their call out buttons over on the right. But this is a whole entire microsite. They've got navigation sections up at the top that have more pages underneath them. Special hotel rates I thought was great. Their use of the Good Things Brewing hashtag. So I really liked this microsite. I thought it was done really well, very clean, had a lot of great information. And then you scroll down and then they're linking everyone to some of these crowdsourcing pages. So I thought that that was awesome, especially for people in the industry. I really liked that one. Another example here, Visit Phoenix. They had a section on their partner page where they were linking them to signage that businesses could print out. You know, yes, we're open, we have takeout available, or that they deliver. You can click on any of those links. They could print out signage to display in their businesses. I thought that that was a great resource to share with your partners. I also really liked their blog link right on that page that takes you over to recipes from your favorite restaurants. So they were able to gather local restaurants, some of those favorite recipes, and they wrote a blog post about it so that you can make your favorite recipes at home. I just thought that was a great way to get partners engaged. Hey, can you submit, some of these? We can write a blog about it. I thought it was a great idea. Thought it was cool, so I wanted to show that as well. And then this one was unique. This is Laurel Highlands, and Jared Bundy just did a video. I thought he was very genuine. It was a unique way to ask or just let partners know that he was there for them, and ask them to collaborate with him on content. So I thought it was a really great way to just be genuine, to be accessible, and to just put a video out there saying that he's here for them and he's willing to work with partners and producing some content. So I thought that was pretty awesome. So that kind of brings us to the end. We do have some time for questions on really anything, but hopefully just getting our creative juices flowing, showing some examples of how we can still communicate to partners. It doesn't have to be, the traditional email sends. We can have a partner section on a site. We can make a video. We can add other things. I've been seeing a lot of really great stuff out there. You guys are doing a great job. So we'll open it up for questions. Sometimes people just need a minute too. I talk really fast. I'm a lot to take in. So
Yeah, and just keep in mind, if you have specific questions about how your invoicing or payment integration system works, your CRM analyst is going to have a better insight into your specific setup and how your drop downs and everything apply. So definitely on your next monthly call or whatever with your CRM analyst, if you have some questions, definitely feel free to bring them up there as well.
It looks pretty quiet. And I will just say too that your CRM analyst is always a good place to go. If you're not sure who to ask, you can always email marketing@simpleviewinc.com. That comes directly to me, and I will figure out where you need to go, because sometimes it can be a little weird this time. And obviously we have Josiah's and Caitlin's information here too, to ask them any questions after the presentation, just because sometimes it definitely is taking in all this information. You need a minute and then you're eating lunch and all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, I wish I had asked that question.
Yeah, this is our job to help you guys out. So if you do have any questions, 100% feel free to email us in relation to this webinar, and we'll happily do so.
Or if you have my no jeans streak beat, you can share that with me. Email that. We can compete.
Cool. I did wear my jeans the other day. I had to go out and pick up my groceries, and I was like, let me make sure my jeans still fit.
Yeah, I'm concerned a little bit, but.
With that, it looks like we've got some thank yous from some people, and we'll close it out for today. But again, reach out to Josiah or Caitlin or to marketing, and we will help you out. We're just here for you.
Yep. Sounds good. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.